Hello and welcome, as Todd Lewis would say, to his own show. But we're here, AAT Sports Live, after match, after hours, after loss. First one in I guess in a couple of weeks, right? Since the Nashville game, it's and especially a hard one to swallow when you think about the opponent and gosh, the stature of this game, the eyes on this game. But let's throw it out to Todd. Todd, who's actually in Miami, not at the game, spending some much deserved downtime. How are you? You look a little burnt.
Yeah, that's what my sister said too, and man, I don't feel it. I mean, I definitely look at looking at myself on the screen here, but yeah, I mean, I guess I'll probably talk about that a little bit tomorrow on my show. And yeah, I was a little bit nervous, right? Where you got a writing assignment for MLS where you had to write about Messi, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to do a solo show on AAT Sports. So I'm glad Jose's here, and I have somebody to do the show with. But yeah, like you said, down in Fort Lauderdale, wasn't at the game, but yeah, a great weekend, a great 2 days in Fort Lauderdale, and disappointing to see that game for the Union end the way that it did. But um, one thing we know between these two teams, you're always going to get goals, and that's exactly what we got in this game. 3 goals. Messi, of course, scoring like he always does against the Union, and Robert Taylor too, scoring his third goal against the Union as well. So it seemed to be a battle of people who have scoring experiences against each team, with Daniel Gazdag, I believe, scoring once against Inter Miami. But yeah, at the end of the day, nothing results except the Union won, and I'm sure we'll get into that, Jose.
Yeah, an interesting game all around, and I think that the biggest piece for me out of this entire game was just how physical it was. And I think it was pretty apparent from the get go when you think about the foul against Mikel Ua and really any ball that bounced around Redondo for Miami. It was hotly contested. A lot of high arms, maybe high elbows per se. Really interesting to see how that happens and how these games develop the way that they do. But all in all, I just give the team credit for fighting till the end and getting that goal there towards the end. When in reality, it's surprise everybody or not a surprise. MLS is having me write an article about the Inter Miami win tonight, which is going to feel a little foreign, but nonetheless part of my job. Just really fascinating to see this team continue to push all the way till the end.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jose, as I try to connect my earbuds to the laptop. But yeah, fascinating stuff. Just, seeing this team not give up and continue to fight. And that's positive signs for this team. They easily could have just given up after they go down 2-0, seeing Messi come on. And even towards the end of the game, you see that block by Nathan Harriel on Luis Suarez when it could have been 3-1 against the Union. And we saw it last year, right? Suarez getting a goal in stoppage time, garbage time to make the score last year 3-1. And I was sitting here thinking, watching this game, and it's kind of a representation of what this game was last year in Fort Lauderdale, where the Union had chances. Sam and Dinron, Daniel Gazdag, and I rewatched that game leading up to this game, just seeing how the Union played down in Miami. Because yeah, it's easy looking at the scoreline saying, "Wow, the Union lost 3-1," but the Union were in that game pretty much nonstop. A lot of errors by Inter Miami in that game last year. Union couldn't take advantage of all of them. This year, it seems like Inter Miami cleaned up those errors, but there were still chances for the Union. Maybe not so much in the first half, but in the second half, which this Union team has been a second half team we've seen through 6 games so far, and unfortunately only able to get one goal. Chris Donovan with a huge chance there at the end, with Quinn Sullivan sending in the cross for Donovan to get a head in onto it. But yeah, at the end of the day, disappointing, like I said, for the Union to lose this game in Fort Lauderdale, and unfortunately drop a tough game in Miami.
I'm muted as I'm staring at a screen. I'm gonna hop off at some point here in the next couple of minutes and let you ride solo, Todd, until Kyle and Jillian or someone else hops on to lend a hand. As I'm waiting for Javier Mascherano to come on to talk a little bit about his team's performance here. Did I lose you? No, you're there.
I'm
Okay,
here. I was
gotcha.
reading the comments. Somebody said there's an echo. So I think
Ah,
it's me talking echoing off of you.
maybe it's just my stone face killer. Who knows? Um, but yeah, I actually recall this game, Todd, from last year, where I believe I was at a wedding in Ohio that I had officiated, and I was watching the entire game on the dance floor, just on my phone like this the entire time, and like putting it in my pocket, and then pulling it out, that type of thing. I guess where we can start with this game, it's also probably fair to mention a very familiar character for Union fans in terms of Fafa Picault, and someone who I think, even though he has maybe a very small role with Inter Miami, made a very big impact in this match. I don't know what your thoughts are on his performance today, but it felt like he was just about everywhere, trying to win every single tackle, trying to be in the way of everything all around. I think he was probably one of their best players. And obviously, we're going to talk about the little Argentine later.
Yeah, and I guess uh, Fafa is a little bit unlucky too. First shot in this game for both teams, Fafa hits the post or the crossbar with his header. I can't remember exactly, but comes close to scoring. Out jumps Nathan Harriel. Which how many times, Jose, do you see that happening? I mean, Nathan Harriel's the best jumper over the ball on this Union team, best player on set pieces, crosses sent in, and yeah, Fafa Pico. I think Union fans remember back in 2019 against New York Red Bulls, scored that header against Red Bulls to either make it 3-2 or tie the game 3-3. I can't remember, but yeah, I mean, Fafa Pico seemed like he had a point to prove against his former team, and we saw him getting into it a little bit too in this game with Nathan Harriel. And yeah, I think Fafa Pico, even at the age of 34 years old, was such a smart pickup by Inter Miami, a team that we all know, and it's talked about all the time in the media, right? That a Luis Suarez, a Lionel Messi, a Sergio Busquets, they're going to need players to do the dirty work. They're going to need players making the runs off the ball, tracking back, winning the ball back. And that's exactly what you get in a Fafa Pico or a Segovia. And I wrote about in my preview article that this is a pretty much brand new into Miami team. Defensively, they were pretty shaky last year. They go out and correct that. But again, they go out and get Segovia, who I think is a fantastic player. Fafa Pico, fantastic player. They're getting in players that are going to do the dirty work. And that's going to take this team very far. And you saw it play in their advantage against the Union tonight.
It absolutely did. I guess where I want to go next from here, Todd, is sort of talk about, and this is something that it's been, I don't want to say bugging me, but sort of was very apparent. This is the first time we've seen, I think, and um, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jovan Lukic substitution early in the game. I think this is the first time he has come off the field on a substitution for the Philadelphia Union in his time so far. Or am I wrong in saying that?
Oh, putting me on the spot, Jose.
You don't have to do too much digging. All that to say that it was, to me, and I don't know if it's going to come up during the press conference. You and I are obviously not hopping on that press conference, but I'd be intrigued to hear if there's an answer, whether it was injury related, and we can talk about the big injury too. But also Ty Bariba at the end goes to show the difference in types of depth when you think about who comes off the bench for the Philadelphia Union and who comes off the bench for Inter Miami. When you think about Lionel Messi coming off the bench, and Chris Donovan's coming off the bench to try to make something. And someone aptly mentioned it here, and this is again like not a I'm personally not maybe fully agreeing with this comment, but um I don't know if you keep Ty Rebo in there and say all things go the same, does he miss the chance that Donovan had there with the header? Who knows?
Same
I
can
like
be
to
said
think
about Mika Ua missing that chance in the first half.
absolutely. I actually was surprised that Bruno Damiani missed that header. That was sort of like the signature why they brought him in. It's a very smart run for a glancing header, a big body in there. That's also very very savvy with his brain. Completely whiffing there on that header, or I'm sorry, getting contact but just not getting it on net was really really weird. But talk to me what you thought about the substitution pattern for today and the bodies that came off and came on.
Yeah, so you had mentioned Jovan Lukic, and I looked it up. So he's played 90 minutes in every single game, but Cincinnati, he came off in the 89th minute, which is so funny, right? In the Union, we're winning that game 4-1 or 3-1 at that point. I mean, so funny. I mean, it seemed like they had that game wrapped up, and you bring out Jovan in that game. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting move to bring off Jovan Lukic for Indiana Vasilev, and I see Bradley Cornell's press conference is going on right now live on YouTube. And for everybody that's checking us out instead of Bradley Cornell, we appreciate the support from all you guys. But yeah, there was a weird one for me. Jovan Lukic off and Indiana Vasilev on, but um, I think when Indy came on, the one thing I noticed about him was not that Jovan wasn't playing for it, but it seemed like the attack was moving quicker with Indy on the field. I don't know if you felt that way, Jose. I mean, Indiana Vasilov came in there and had a couple really good key passes for the Union and unlocking this Miami team. But unfortunately, I mean, just the story of this game for the Union, particularly in the second half when they're creating chances and um, 13 shots. I mean, that is a lot of shots for the Union in the second half. 13 shots, 4 on target, 3 big chances missed. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about this team. And the same thing could be said against Nashville. And is that going to be the story going forward for this team where they create chances and when they don't finish those chances, 1, 2, 3 plays, does that mean that it's going to lead to a loss potentially? And you would expect the Union to come out and have more chances created because they were trailing this game 2-0, eventually get that goal with Daniel Gazdag. But going back to your question about the substitution pattern, yeah, I mean, interesting to see Indiana Vasilov go back to a 6, where I think he's probably better as a 10 than he is as a defensive midfielder, but he does bring you that versatility. And then Mikhail Uhre, I think he's the one that I would have brought off at halftime for Damiani. I was surprised that Bradley Cornell kept him out there as long as he did. Then you see a Jesus Bueno come in, which hasn't played a lot this season. We know that he had a long flight to get back into the country from Venezuela, met up with the team Friday in Miami. And so I was a little bit surprised to see Bradley Cornell go to Jesus Bueno off his bench. And we continue to see Chris Donovan coming off the bench for this team. But my question, maybe I would leave for the people in the chat and yourself, Jose. We just saw Marcus Anderson play last night for Union 2. Does Marcus Anderson, once he gets up to fitness, does he start taking away some of those minutes for Chris Donovan? I mean, the comments, and we've seen it the last couple of years, Union fans aren't happy with Chris Donovan. They don't think he's an MLS quality player. And my argument would be, would Marcus Anderson be that player once he's healthy, taking the minutes we're seeing Chris Donovan get early on in this season?
That is a very intriguing thought, and one I haven't really thought about, because if I recall, wasn't Anderson the man who gave up the ball to Cincinnati last year, that led to eventually Lucho going down the field? And I'm sorry if you mentioned it during your question. I was just sort of percolating, thinking about it more. But ever since that, he's been in the doghouse. So, and mostly injured is how he has spent his time with Philadelphia. I will never laugh about a man having, or a player having an injury or anything like that, but it feels like this guy is just made out of glass every time I think about him on the roster. It's like, oh, okay, he's got this going on, he's got that going on, and players just have that tough luck. But nonetheless, it feels like with him, it's far more often. Todd, I'm gonna have to leave for a little bit. Javier Mascherano is now at the stand, and I gotta earn my money for a little bit.
Sounds good. All right, so this is going to be interesting because I believe Jose is the host of the show, and if Kyle or Jillian, who said they would join us on the show, I don't think I'd be able to let them in. I also don't think I can pull up you guys' comments on YouTube, so I can see the comments and I'll read them, but I just can't put them on the screen. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I do agree, and I see Colin saying here that Anderson should absolutely be taking Donovan's minutes, no questions asked. And to Jose's point, yeah, I mean, Marcus Anderson was the player who messed up in that Cincinnati game last year in the 4-3 loss. And yes, it's a new manager, and Bradley Cornell's been saying pretty much since preseason that, it's a clean slate. Every single Monday, it's a clean slate for players to get a new chance and everything. So I'm sure once Marcus Anderson gets healthy, he's going to get opportunities to show why the Union brought him in last season. And hopefully he can stay healthy because a lot of injuries. And I remember last year against North Texas in the MLS Cup, comes out after 45 minutes in the first half because he got injured once again. So we'll be curious to see once Marcus Anderson gets fully healthy. I'd imagine he starts going into this match day squad, and does he start taking minutes away from Chris Donovan? And again, Jose and I hopped on to this live on YouTube pretty much straight away without listening to Bradley Cornell's press conference. So maybe somebody asked about Chris Donovan continuing to get minutes for this team, but yeah, I don't know. I'll have to go back and listen to that. Colin says, but how many opportunities are we going to continue to give Donovan before we realize he's just not it? He's gotten so many chances, honestly. And I mean, just honestly, it's how many strikers? You have three strikers in Ua, Bribo, and Damiani. Mikal Ur, and it's been ever since he's been a Philadelphia Union player, he's just not 90 minutes fit. I can probably count on both hands the amount of times that Mikal Ur has played 90 plus minutes in his time here with the Union. Damiani, I would expect to start for the Union sooner rather than later. A little bit of a disappointing game for Ty Bribo tonight. Had a huge chance with that header. And so again, I think you're kind of forced to play Chris Donovan just because you only have three strikers that I just mentioned. And when you're down goals, of course, you're going to bring on attacking pieces. And so I would expect, Chris Donovan to continue to get those minutes until Marcus Anderson's completely healthy. Yes, I know you have Salo Livas and Eddie Davis, who both signed homegrown deals before the season started with Union, but I don't think either one of those players are ready anytime soon to get any minutes for this first team squad. I think Davi Vasquez and CJ Oni are more ahead in their development than those two forwards. So yeah, you're kind of forced to play Chris Donovan as often as you are. Could you potentially change formations and go to a 4-2-3-1 or something like that? Play one forward up top? Yeah, potentially. But again, you're down goals. And so you bring strikers off the bench who are supposed to score you goals. And I know Chris Donovan's not doing that. He continues to get himself in good positions to get those goals. Had a chance when Gazdag laid the pass off to him and he gets a shot blocked, has the header at the end of the game. And so, as much as fans get on Chris Donovan for not scoring, saying he's not it, credit has to be given to him for continuing to get himself in good positions. And yes, we're seeing that with Mikal Ur. We saw it last week with Bruno Damiani against St. Louis. So that's what you want to see with your forwards. And this team in general is getting in good positions, creating chances because yes, as tough it is to see the Union lose this game against Inter Miami, it's not like this team's not creating chances. I think there would be an argument if this team's not creating chances if players aren't getting in good positions, but that's not the case. And unfortunately for the Union, they left it way too late tonight to try to get something out of Miami. For people that are joining us here on Across the Pitch on AAT Sports YouTube page. Jose was with me. He was the host of this, so I can't pull up people's comments, nor can I bring people into the show if a Jose or if a Kyle and Jillian try to join the show. So hopefully Jose is able to if he joins back in. He had to step out and listen to Javier Mascherano's press conference for MLSsoccer.com. Philadelphia Union fan says here on YouTube, Bradley Cornell, as I'm watching this press conference, kind of mentioned it, but not really got too much into it about the fact that players didn't have full energy. Yeah, so again, haven't listened to the press conference. Appreciate everybody that's checking us out here on YouTube while Bradley Cornell is talking to the media. But yeah, I think just going back and again, I mean, it's so hard doing these kind of episodes where I don't know how Mike does it. And I know Kyle, myself, Jose, Dave, we all join these shows right afterwards and kind of just give our thoughts as soon as the game ends and everything. Just looking at the amount of shots for the Union, 19-7, and going into this game, maybe some fans look at the stat sheet and say, "Wow, I'm shocked that Miami only had 7 shots." But this is a team that is so selective in their shots. They always want to build up, and when they see a good opportunity to take a shot, usually it winds up on target. And so, more times than not, the opposition is always going to outshoot into Miami. But like I had said, it would be one thing if the Union aren't creating chances, and they are creating chances, and it's just a story of not finishing those chances off. And again, as much as fans may want to blame a Chris Donovan, it's not all on Chris Donovan. Mikael Uhr had chances tonight. Ty Berber had chances tonight. Daniel Gazak had a chance tonight. And so it's harsh to try to really blame one player. One thing, though, that I did want to bring up is just looking at Kai Wagner missing from this team. And I saw somebody mention earlier, again, sorry, I can't pull up the comments, but seeing Kai Wagner not be in this lineup maybe caught fans by surprise. I think it caught us in the media by surprise too, because when Bradley Cornell talked to the media on Thursday, there was no mention of an injury by Kai Wagner. The Union had practice on Friday before they headed down here to Fort Lauderdale. So I would imagine, and maybe this is something Bradley Cornell said in his press conference, I'd imagine Kai Wagner got hurt on Friday. It's a ab injury, and I don't know how long Kai Wagner is going to be out on, especially if that injury is as early as this Friday. And so you see Frankie Westfield hop into the starting 11 as a left back. He has experience playing as a left back with Union 2, has played there, I think, a little bit with the U.S. youth teams. Jillian, I'm happy that you were able to join, so I don't have to do this solo. But you and Kyle were both at this game. What are your thoughts? Just the atmosphere at Chase Stadium and just the night overall.
I'm trying to move away from noisy kids here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, I hear you. Yeah,
okay.
You're good.
All right. Yeah, so one observation was that when they were announcing the players, they only really loudly cheered for Messi and friends. So, but I will say the atmosphere was pretty good. The stadium does have a very temporary feel, but they have a lot of good variety of stuff you can get there, food and drink, so that was nice. But yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder what it'll be like when Messi's gone, because there was a clear change when he came on and anytime he would do anything.
Yeah, so you guys got here, I think, late Friday night. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the one thing I've noticed, I've been here since Friday morning, is just walking around Fort Lauderdale. You see so many Messi jerseys. And I'm seeing more, Messi Argentina jerseys, Messi Barcelona jerseys, or just like Team Messi jerseys and t-shirts than I am into Miami Messi jerseys. Yes, I've seen them down here. But I think you're right. And Philadelphia Union fan says it. They are a bunch of bandwagon fans. You know it. We know it. You just have to say it. That's exactly what they are. They're Messi fans. They're not into Miami fans. And just seeing the amount of Messi gear down here, people don't care about into Miami. They only care about Messi. And yeah, it's just so interesting walking around the city and seeing Messi, but not really so much into Miami gear.
Yeah, and I think it was Sully. I saw it on Twitter. I forget exactly. Said they were like Taylor Swift fans. Like, that's a good comparison, actually. Like the Taylor Swift fans that started cheering for the Chiefs because of that whole thing. So, I don't know. Like, it's just, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic here. That's for sure. I would be interested to quiz people on, can you name, players?
Don't name the Barcelona players, the former Barcelona players.
Right?
Name other players than those.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'll be honest.
Good, Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Like you said, Todd, I thought the strokes tonight were getting in the right places. We were creating chances. Just ball didn't bounce the way tonight. I mean, there's a world where this is a different match, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were definitely creating chances, and that was good to see. They just need to finish there. And I mean, just they're getting shots on target, but then they're going right to the goalkeeper, and I mean, some really good things to build off of. I mean, this is a quality opponent for sure. They just got burned on a few things, but overall, some definite positives to take away from it. I thought some really nice crosses. I mean, Frankie to Ua, then Jovan had that one shot. That was great, just, a lot of little things right. They just couldn't finish.
So before you joined, I don't know if you heard this, but I was talking about, Kai Wagner being out because of that abdominal injury. So that means Frankie Westfield goes to left back. We've seen him play there plenty of times last season with Union 2s, played there with the U.S. Youth National Team, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's a natural right back, can play center back. I mean, he's a versatile defender, just like a Nathan Harriel. But somebody had mentioned earlier in the episode in the comments, would this game have been different if we would have saw a Kai Wagner on the left side of the field against Frankie Westfield? And on top of that, my question to you, Jillian, as you and Kyle were pretty much the only people covering every single Union 2 game last year, I mean, do you think Frankie Westfield was ready for the challenge playing as a left back against, Inter Miami? I mean, it's a lot different coming from MLS Next Pro to Inter Miami and MLS.
Yeah, with him having played left back so much last season, I figured he was going to be comfortable there. Obviously, it's a different level. I know Jim was always quick to say what the jump was between Next Pro and MLS, but I've seen a lot of maturity just from Frankie, like just really sliding right in there and a lot of poise. So I think that was pretty big. Honestly, putting him in there, I was like, okay, I think he can bring it. We definitely saw a lot of that. He really embraced that captain's role last year. And, I think I always said, like, between him, CJ Olney, and David Vasquez, they're probably the ones that from Union 2 that I thought, yeah, they could hang. They could definitely hang with the guys at MLS at this point.
And just quickly, go Kyle.
You go ahead, Kyle.
I mean, to your point, Todd, there were times tonight where you could tell this was a different level for him. And there were times where he stepped up, and there was times he was learning on the fly, so to speak. So I think for Frankie, this is a good learning experience, a good growth opportunity. He definitely gave it his all on the field. You're never going to question that. But, yeah, there were some times tonight it was like, ooh, Frankie, you can't be doing that. But I thought overall he was good on the night. So, I mean, it's a good – I'll say this. I'd rather have him than Isaiah LaFleur right now, and that's not a knock on Isaiah because he hasn't played soccer really in over a year. He's only had 3 matches. So, yeah.
What about Nathan Harriel or Frankie Westfield on the left? Both have played it. Both natural right backs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think this was the right move just because Frankie's had so much more like recent experience, I'd say, at left back. So I think that was the right move. As soon as we saw that Kai wasn't in, I'm like, oh yeah, they're going to go Frankie over there. That would make sense. But yeah, I definitely would go with what Carnell put out there with Nate and Frankie.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at Frankie Westfield's stats on foot mob, 1 out of 2 crosses, and I think that was the big key takeaway is the Union really didn't go down that left side of the field a lot. You're playing a natural right footer as a left back, and so the Union didn't ask Frankie to send in a lot of crosses like a Kai Wagner would. But then defensively, I thought Frankie was really solid. 3 out of 4 tackles, 1 it says here. He had 3 ball recoveries. Yeah, he got dribbled by 2 times, but yeah, I think Frankie held his own and definitely wasn't responsible for any of the goals that that Inter Miami had scored on the night. But I do think maybe this game would have been a little bit different with Kai Wagner's service. I mean, look, he was leading MLS, or depending on if you guys want to count secondary assists or not, coming in tonight. He was tied for first with 4 assists, but he leads MLS in secondary assists with 5 overall. And so the connection with Ty Barubo and Kai Wagner all season long has been really, really spot on. And so I do think you lost a little bit of that attack on the left side of the field, not having Kai Wagner. But at the same time, the Union were still creating chances even with no Kai Wagner tonight. And so I don't think this game would have been that different if Kai would have played. instead of Frankie Westfield, because at the end of the day, this Union was still creating chances. They just couldn't finish any of those chances off. And it's so harsh to, have this conversation, just like we were having this conversation after Nashville, where yes, it's positive. You're seeing players get into the right position. You're seeing players create chances, but they aren't finishing them. And okay, maybe that's a little bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, at least you're getting yourselves in those positions to have those shots.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's definitely a positive to take away. They're creating those chances. I'd be way more worried if they weren't. But again, they got to finish that. I mean, it's just you get burned when you're against Inter Miami, make a couple mistakes, and there it is.
Now, I want to go back to the stadium. People that may be just joining on YouTube, Jose Nunez was with me to start the show. I can't pull up comments on YouTube. I can't bring them up on the stream. And I didn't even know if you were able to join the stream, Jillian, because Jose's not here to let people in. But it looks like, and maybe people are just listening to this on audio, is that a garage behind you? It looks like you guys are in a parking lot of some sort. That's a garage?
Yeah, so we're like maybe 2 blocks from the stadium. We're waiting for an Uber. So, and it's like just a big jam around the stadium. So we're a few blocks down. We're behind some garage, and there's a lot of like fans standing around too. So,
Did you guys Uber to the stadium?
Yeah. So we
Do you mind me asking the cost? Because I heard that it gets like jacked up going and leaving games.
It is. It's yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
What's that?
The cost. Yes.
For us right now it's $28. It was.
Oh, and
it was 12 coming.
It was 12. For the record, we only have to go 4 miles. Like my cousin's place is 4 miles from here.
Yeah, my hotel was like 2 miles away. I mean, it's crazy. Like, for people that are just joining you, Kyle and Jillian down at the stadium, I was supposed to go, and I'll talk about that a little bit on my show tomorrow when I go live at 9:00. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised just like how close everything really seems to be. And I honestly thought, Kyle, $28 isn't bad. I thought it would have been jacked up even higher, but
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about the stadium, Jillian, and as we get close to wrapping this up, I mean, just anything else about the stadium stand out to you for maybe Union fans that haven't been down there? If I'm not mistaken, this is the last season at Chase Stadium. Maybe they're there next year. I know they're building Miami Freedom Park, where Miami will be playing in the future down in Miami. But anything else about that area, about the stadium? I know there's a executive airport right behind it.
Yeah, there is that executive airport right there. So they have think of like how the Union's Plaza is, except it's more of like, somebody just went speeding down there. So think about like how the Union Plaza is, but they have this big, like they call it fan zone, and it's like kind of like Union Plaza, but kind of what I think the Union want the plaza to end up being. It has like food trucks, like games and things people can do, and stands and things. So like I took some pictures. I think I posted a couple on Twitter, and I'll post some more things. But yeah, like there's a lot of places around for people to hang out. Before the game. So there was a lot of people taking part in that. So that I think their fan experience outside of it's pretty nice. It's a temporary stadium, so they have like the trailer kind of bathrooms and stuff there. Kind of like if for anyone who's been to Montreal, it's kind of like that. Just kind of under the stands. But overall, it was not a bad fan experience.
What about Union fans? How many were there? Because when Gazak scored, they showed one lone Union fan.
Did they zoom in like low or something, or because
I don't even know where this Union fan was. I have no clue where he was. They didn't show you guys.
Okay, so we were in. Yeah, so there was like, I want to say maybe there. Well, I was told that there were 21 tickets sold for the away supporters. So, and that sounds about right. That's about, I'd say, there were about maybe 20 people up in that. And then we saw some random Union fans here and there. But yeah, we were at the very top of the section that was behind the goal that the Union were scoring at the second half. So we were up there. Not the worst away supporter section ever. People up there were saying, it's not nearly as bad as, say, DC, where you are, climbing Mount Everest, basically. So, so overall it was okay. I mean, it was good to see another stadium. The concourse, you couldn't walk the whole way around. So we did get to see Dave Leno. Shout out Dave Leno. But we had a decent amount of support. I'll say this: it was more support than I've seen other teams sometimes bring to Subaru Park. So that was good to see.
Yeah, and I see Jose Nunez is here. Jose, are you able to say anything? Looks like it, yes.
I can stick around for a minute or two here. Just want to say thank you to both of you. Jillian, welcome, and thank you for hopping on. It's been a crazy evening. More often than not, I for those that want to know how the sausage is made, per se, with MLSsoccer.com, I'm assigned 3 games. I'm supposed to keep tabs on all 3 games that I'm assigned to, and then maybe with 10 or 15 minutes to go at the end of all the matches, they tell me what story to write about and sort of like some of the key points they want me to highlight. And one in pink is coming out for all of you to enjoy about Inter Miami here in the next couple of hours. So stay tuned, and I apologize for some of you that have to read this, but all in all, I do got to give it up to the little guy. It's sort of impressive that he comes on and scores so quickly out of the jump. I was shocked to see that goal, but any final words or anything? You guys can keep on going. I figure this is probably a good spot to stop. 36 minutes, and we can probably part ways and listen to Jillian. What was Cornell's press conference today? 5 minutes, 6 minutes?
Yeah, it was not too long. We listened to it as we were walking from the stadium because it was only 2 people asking questions. So it was Tannenwald and Tansy on there. So so it was fairly short.
6 minutes, 23 seconds, it looks like.
Those are not great to use for write-ups. That's a tough one to extract much from, all in all. But I think this is probably a good spot to stop. I do want to give a quick shout out to Fafa. We mentioned him earlier, Todd. What a game he had. Corey Burke went ahead and scored his second goal in USL for Lexington SC. And Matt Real had an assist today for the Colorado Springs switchback, and a very, very nice cross that honestly looked very MLS to me. So that's no surprise that he's playing at that level in USL. So with that, we thank all of you. We certainly miss Mike Barrera, who does a far better job than I do at hosting this, and probably goes toe-to-toe with Todd Lewis. But
not a good host. I'm a better secondary.
Mike is healing from the food poisoning, but I jokingly call it the butt problems. He's having butt problems right now, so hopefully he feels better next week. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see ya. How do you do this?